Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie. So Cassandra Spence is a manager of I should get your title here in front of me here. It's our manager of process automation based at our Vancouver head office, and she's got a bachelor's of applied science and material and metallurgical engineering from Queen's University. Maybe Cassandra, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do here at Tech.
For sure. So I guess I've been with Tech for 7 years now, and I joined Tech in the operations field. So, hands-on in the plant in operations management. And then since then, I think one of my key reflections about working for Tech is the opportunity to have a greater diversity of experiences due to the number of different operating arms and business units. So since then, I've had experience within our technical projects and technical services group, and then now more recently in our Race 21 technology program for processing automation. And it's been a really fascinating experience, but it is, in a way, my specific role these days is focusing on the medium and longer term planning and strategy for the application of these advanced technologies within our process facilities. I'll give maybe 5 seconds of background of how I ended up here, because my degree, being in materials and metallurgy, is not intuitively the same thing as mining. It's actually an explicitly different program. But through both Tech and some of our other Canadian companies, there are the integrated mining companies with the downstream metallurgical facilities. So when I started in the industry, it was with Hudbay Minerals, but again, due to the integrated facilities of hydrometallurgy and pyrometallurgical facilities. And then I just ended up working my way up the value chain into primary processing. So it's been an interesting journey so far, and I think will likely continue to be interesting as the years go on.
That's awesome, Cassandra. Thanks. Great. Okay, yeah, and I'm anxious to dive into some of those details for sure, because I want to learn a little bit more about the path, because I think you have a really unique path for Tech. And I think, like you said, it highlights the diversity of the company and what kind of different areas you could work in. So, which I think gives us a bit of a leg up on other companies, because we have that option for people coming up through the company to get that diverse experience. Great. And so, Jesse, I'm going to jump over to you real quick. I know Jesse's our surprise guest in between. So Jesse's joining us today. I've thrown her into the mix, which is awesome that she was so able to join today. And Jesse's going to be able to, Jesse Watson is engineering training here at our coal business unit. And Jesse, if you want to maybe just do a quick intro of yourself and then talk to us a little bit about, I guess, coal processing and sort of the job that you have right now at Elkview.
For sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Jessie. Like Stacey said, I'm a processing EIT at Elkview, one of our metallurgical coal operations. So I primarily work in the plant, don't have a ton of interaction, and I don't spend any time in the pit. So all those trucks that you see driving around, that's one part of our operation, and the plant is a whole nother piece of the puzzle. So I work down at the plant. I've been here for about almost 2 years on the nose, actually. I got my engineering degree, my chemical engineering degree at Dalhousie in Halifax. So any of you Dal kids out there, I'm sure there's probably a few of you on here. So yeah, I started in this position, and a lot of my day-to-day is working with operations and, doing the kind of day-to-day firefighting. How can we optimize and put as much coal out the door safely as possible? So, day-to-day, I might do things like looking at KPIs. I might do things like physically going out in the field with operators and observing things, looking at data to compare and say, how could we possibly do this better? To tie in with the Race 21 stuff, I'm certainly not the person who implements those solutions. I am not a great technology person by any means. So don't think just because you're not super technology savvy, you can't find a place with tech. So my role in that kind of realm would more be identifying what issues do we have. So an example of that might be our plant startup time. So if we had either planned or unplanned downtime, we were taking forever, like in the realm of 45 minutes to an hour to start the plant up back up again, just because of hiccups, because of how many buttons operators had to push, all of that sort of stuff. And we said, we need to get that down. How could we possibly get that down? So we worked with people with Race 21 operators, that sort of thing. And our startup time is now down to kind of 10 to 15 minutes. We've had it as quick as 4 minutes. So that's a huge difference from an hour to 6 minutes. And I'm sure this figure is not accurate anymore based on the price change in coal, but I believe it's $42 a second that the plant makes in profit. So an hour of not being able to start the plant makes a big difference. So yeah.
That's awesome. I was actually going to ask you, I'm like, what's that mean by dollars? Because I know that some of the numbers kind of blow your mind when it comes to mining, when you start talking about like the type of equipment or inefficiencies and what kind of impact you can make. And it seems sort of insignificant, but it's huge impact across the operations when you look at it from a bottom dollar. So I'm glad you said it, because I didn't want to put you on the spot. Awesome, Jesse.
I just knew you were going to ask me.
You knew it. You're like reading my mind. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, I've got a few questions I'd love to ask. And again, I'll encourage anyone on the call, if you do have a question, like I say, we want to keep this open and more conversational. We have another guest join us in another 10, 15 minutes. So I will be introducing him along the way, but I'd love to jump into some questions and find out a little bit more about Cassandra's and Jesse's experience. So yeah, if you have a question, type in the chat, raise your hand. If not, I'm going to keep on trucking. I can talk this whole hour if you really want me to. So I guess maybe Cassandra, I'll start with you, and especially consider you've moved into the technology realm a little bit, and maybe can you talk to us a little bit about what gets you excited over the next few years? Is there any technology or any sort of big improvement that you're seeing coming on the line that you think is it makes you excited about what we're doing and where the business is going to be in a few years?
Yeah, I guess great question. I mean, it might almost be difficult to answer because it's really what pillar or what aspect or what part of the business are we thinking at any given moment. Within processing, and I'll speak to processing first because it's my specialty, what I'm really excited about is, and I'll be perfectly honest, some of Teck's process facilities are older. They're older facilities that have had moderate upgrades over the years. But I see through the RACE program a lot of opportunity to modernize in a much more, I'll say, equitable fashion, where facilities that might have maybe struggled to create a business case or just get it across the line as far as project implementation goes, due to, there's a number of reasons why that can sometimes occur. The RACE program is adding, both the human resources and the motivation, the drive, and that visibility for a lot of these new technologies, and in some cases for maybe not so new technologies that we've already known would be a good idea, but now there's this push to do a lot more about it. So being able to witness and participate in this whole-scale change in how Teck does business is really fascinating and quite inspiring, actually. I mean, I would view myself as just a small part of it, but watching the way some of my teammates work and what's possible, I guess, is also really exciting. And then when we think about it from a more global perspective on the business, it's really, I think, like Stacey, like you had already mentioned, our opportunity to make material changes. We've always been striving for efficiencies in water, in energy, and footprint, and especially as the global conversation around climate change, it keeps becoming more and more in the forefront, and much more the priority of how we consider any business implications. I think some of the RACE technologies are giving us the tools to measure and implement more effectively and efficiently some of the opportunities to make material changes in those areas as well.
Yeah, for sure. And something that we sort of joke about and we say a lot, and people probably have heard us say this before, is we're kind of like a startup with a lot of money. There's lots of opportunity to really up our game in terms of technology and new ways and innovative ways to do things. I mean, we've been around a long time and you've seen bits and pieces of technology implemented in different areas, but to have a bit more of a consistent approach, and that's what Race is really bringing to the company, is really that consistency on, okay, if we're going to do this here, we're seeing some really big improvements. Let's do this here, here, and here as well, because then we're seeing that across the board. So yeah, the joke that we're like the startup is, I find it amusing, but it's true in a way, a lot of ways. I know I have a hand up here, so I'll call on one of the people that put their hand up. I think it's, sorry, I don't have the name here. It just says Sand, I think.
It's Josh. For some reason, because I'm using my school email, it won't let me actually change the name.
Yeah, we've had that a bit, Josh. Awesome.
Because you were talking about like new directions for like tech and like areas you guys are looking at. Are you guys looking at doing like diversifying even further into like, because I know Canada has a lot of rare earth and rare earth metals and also minerals that are important for like technology and are part of and they haven't really been utilized or really developed so far. Are you guys at all like investing or looking into doing that? Because I know in particular recently that one big coal project you guys had originally planned for in Alberta kind of was canceled. So I was wondering if you guys are now trying to move towards like more technology based elements or anything such.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question, Josh. Well, I guess I could quickly say that we do have exploration projects all over the world. So we're always looking at areas where we can invest, in different areas that we can diversify. I do think that Teck is pretty set on sort of the products that they're familiar with and are sort of experts in the field. But maybe Cassandra, I don't know if you know anything further about sort of the future of Teck in terms of there's some further diversification.
Sure. I mean, I'll certainly second Stacey's comment around the global and multi-commodity reach of our exploration business is um, unexpectedly broad is maybe the way I would put it as a non-exploration person. And then when it comes to say rare earth specifically, it's not an area of commodity focus that I personally have heard us reaching into, but of course there are within the exploration team. That strategic planning process is fairly extensive. I think one of the things I would mention just in terms of multi-commodities and metals that support those future, be it electrification or advanced technology needs, is our trail operation is really quite fascinating. So it's not rare earth specifically, but it does produce a large portfolio of metals and specialty metals and specialty elements that go into advanced technology, or be it computing and chips and microprocessors. So there is, in some perspectives, you could say Teck's already in that space, but a bit more on the downstream rather than on the upstream side.
Oh, great. Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Awesome. All right. Okay, and then I'll jump in. I've got a question for Jesse, if you don't mind, Jesse. I was wondering, I guess, the fact that you're an EIT and you're at the site, you sort of talked about how you're in the plant. You don't go to the operations as such, but I guess, can you give us a feel for how much time you spend, like, say, on the floor in the plant versus the office? Like, what's that EIT sort of balance look like for you?
Yeah, so initially when I first started, I would say I spent 80% of my time out on the floor, out in the plant. Okay. We've recently, I started actually on a 4x4 straight day shift, which personally I loved. Weekday skiing, 4 days off all the time. It was great. So our big focus was that day-to-day out on the floor with operators. We've recently transitioned to a regular weekday schedule, and now our focus is more project and long-term betterment based. So I spend a lot more time in the office now than I did when I was on that 4-and-4 schedule, focusing on more day-to-day stuff. So now I would say I'm probably about 50-50. One thing I will say about working in a coal plant, whether your office is, whether your job is 100% office based at the plant or 100% based like out on the floor, you will get dirty. So if you're someone that doesn't like to get dirty, might not be the place for you. But if you are someone that likes to, go get your hands dirty a bit and kind of learns by doing, it's a great place. Like, it's kind of hard to tell maybe, but my hands are that dirty and I haven't left my office today for what just so happened to be one of those days. So that's just kind of an example of what your day might look like in that kind of role.
Awesome. That's great, Jesse. I love the visual.
It's not a clean place. Doesn't matter what you're doing. You're not going to stay super clean.
Yeah, I often have that conversation with students when I'm like, okay, so just so you're prepared, you're gonna get your hands dirty, you're gonna work in the field, but the opportunity to be able to get out and see the equipment and see what you're working on, as opposed to just looking at a plan or the theory behind it, you get to actually see, just hands-on what's affecting the operators, what's not working, what is working, and be able to offer those real solutions. It's that's priceless, as they say.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a steep learning curve here, especially if you're, fresh out of school or a co-op or have never worked in coal before. I came from an oil and gas background, so it was a really steep learning curve. And, being able to do the hands-on stuff for me anyways made that learning process a lot easier. So you learn a lot, and there's a lot of knowledge from, operators, other engineers, that sort of thing that you can get that you're not going to get looking at a drawing. So.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. That's great. And I spoke a little bit about students. So maybe what I'll do, I'm going to introduce a student that we have here on the line, Thomas Walker. So Thomas is a part of the co-op team. So maybe Thomas, if you want to give a quick sort of intro of yourself and sort of where you're working within the business unit.
Hi, so I'm a third year mechanical engineering student at UVic, and I'm working at the Fording River operation. So it's also one of the Teck coal plants, and I'm in the plant operations section as well. So it's great getting out. You can kind of do a bit of both. There's lots of time to go into the different plants, like the plant and the dryer and all the different processing buildings, and get to see what's going on. It's a really great way to kind of explore what it's there. And as Jesse was saying, it's so much easier than looking at a drawing for a lot of the stuff. You can really tell exactly what's going on. And then all of the operators, especially the ones who have been here quite a while, they're just a kind of a wealth of knowledge. It's kind of like a history book. You can just ask them anything. They know what's going on.
That's true. It's awesome. Yeah, no, you definitely can utilize. I some of my friends who are engineers joke at sort of like they look like a rock star. If you have a good relationship with the operators and you can understand, they can give you sort of the challenges, what is happening, and then you can sort of translate it in the more technical sense. It certainly helps you move your job along and make your job a lot easier when you can forge those relationships with the people who are working on the floor and see what's happening day in, day out. Great, thanks, Thomas. I'm probably going to call on you again if there's some questions come up, but I know someone's got their hand up here. Sorry, I can't see who it is. Is it Esmond? You want to ask a question? Awesome.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I want to put it in the chat box, but it turned out it didn't show it on my side, so I'm not sure if that function was on. So okay. Yeah, I would just go ahead to ask the question first. So I've just got a question for Jesse. So I'm just wondering, because I just graduated last year, and I'm really interested in tech resource as well. But the thing I'm just curious is like, what kind of support does a new graduate or does a EIT get? Like, because I know Tech has a training program. So do you get to meet your supervisor like every month, or do you get the opportunity to present the things that you learn, or do you get to? Well, I definitely know you that have the opportunity to apply your knowledge in your daily job. But I'm just wondering, like, what kind of things or what kind of events does the EIT get in Tech resource?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it kind of depends on what area you're working, but I'll speak, to what my experience has been. So I'm actually very lucky. I have a phenomenal supervisor. I see my supervisor and talk with my supervisor one-on-one daily, pretty much. As long as he's here, I see him, I talk to him. So as far as sort of formal sit downs on what your progress is and that sort of thing. Every 6 months, we go through a kind of evaluation of, here's what your expectations are for the next 6 months. This is how you did on your previous 6 months. What kind of things do you want to learn? How can we make sure that you learn those things? So you go through that process every 6 months. There's lots of opportunity for, a diverse number of, training courses and that sort of thing. A lot of it is, from my experience anyways, has been very hands-on and informal kind of training, although there is the opportunity for some other formal training like, risk assessment training, some leadership training as you get a bit further down the line. COVID has made it difficult over the last year to do a lot of stuff in person, unfortunately. But so, our team, would have been doing other kind of team building events and that sort of thing that we're obviously not doing now. So, my experience has been really good as far as, what my supervision is like, what my interaction with them is, and what my kind of path is. So you kind of, once you get into your kind of 6 months to a year mark, you start looking at, what kind of path do I want my career to take? Do I want to take a really technical path, or do I want to take more of a leadership type path? And then you start looking at opportunities and training that line up more with that. So for me, I'm more interested in the leadership kind of stream. So all of my training and practice and, hands-on stuff is really focused towards that. So you have the ability to kind of choose what you want to focus on, and then you're, with your supervisor, you work on building those competencies.
Okay. But I'm just curious, like for you, is it going to be for 2 years you are going to have the same supervisor?
It's not necessarily a set in stone time. So it depends on what my movement is, and it depends on what my supervisor's movement is. So it really just depends.
Okay. But at least for you right now, like for this coming 2 years, you are going to stay in the same plant.
Yeah, so I've been in the same plant with the same supervisor for the last 2 years, and then over the next year or two, I'll start to potentially have some different supervisors, and then there is a lot of for EITs that you do get shuffled around within the operations in the valley, just to get some different experience. And again, there's no real set timeline for that, but there is opportunity to be moved around.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, and just to add to that too, like we have a, Jesse sort of alluded to it too. It's basically a formalized process. You would sit down with your supervisor basically 3 times a year, and we have sort of a performance evaluation tool that you would sort of sit down at the beginning of the year, set out your goals for the year, have a mid-year sort of formal touch base. I mean, like I say, you're constantly working with your supervisor, but have a formalized sort of touch base on making sure you're meeting those targets if you have to adjust anything, and then year end. And that's when you have those career discussions of like, hey, I'm really interested in this particular area. I want to get some experience in here or there. And that's when you and your supervisor work together on matching that with the business needs as well to make sure you're getting that diverse experience through your rotation.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know there's a few more questions popping up, but I do want to introduce Wes Kitura, who's just joined us. Thanks, Wes, for coming on board. We appreciate you. So what we'll do, Wes, maybe if you could just do a brief introduction of yourself and sort of where you work and what you do, and then we can get you in on these questions.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, sorry I'm late, everybody. I had another meeting I was on. My name is Wes Kitura. I've been at HVC for 15 years, so I'm at Highland Valley Copper. It's near Kamloops, interior BC. I graduated from UBC in 2005 with a degree in mining and mineral process engineering. My title at HVC right now is Superintendent of Mill Technical. So I am the technical manager within the plant, and I've got a team of so we're responsible for any technical troubleshooting within the plant if there's a production issue, improvement projects, production reporting, And yeah, I've got mineral process engineers. There's 7 of them, and then 5 process control engineers that work for me, as well as a number of technicians.
Thanks, Wes. That's great. We've got a few questions we're just working our way through, so I might throw some your way as we chit chat along, and make sure we get everybody's questions answered. All right, so maybe sorry, Misaki, I don't know if you've noticed if someone, I think the question in the chat was maybe next.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go with the Tapua's question for Jesse.
Sure, Jesse, you're a hot commodity here today. What are some of your favorite duties as an EIT?
Yeah, so great question, Tapua, because A, I think everybody's experience differs, and B, I think what everyone likes differs. So for me, I really enjoy working with people. So I really enjoy going out, having a look at stuff with operators, seeing what their issues are and how I can help them. I like, I have the opportunity to supervise some smaller projects, and be involved in larger scale projects. So I find that sort of thing really interesting, and is kind of what gets my juices going, and it's what I feel I'm best at as well. So I really enjoy it, but it's where I can provide the most value to the people I work with. So that's definitely what I enjoy most. There's umpteen million types of roles within tech that you can have as an EIT. So everything ranging from sitting in a back room punching away at code, if that's what you like, to never stepping foot in an office and being filthy dirty all the time. I certainly am more towards that end of the scale, but for me, that's what I enjoy, and there's lots of opportunity for that. And I feel like tech does a pretty good job of placing the right people in the right roles. So I hope that answers that.
Awesome, Jesse, thank you. All right, I know we have someone's got a hand up here. Sorry, I'm just looking for the name. Oh, it's Jenny. Okay, Jenny, do you have a question?
I do. It's a 2-part question, or maybe a 4-part question. So, what are Tech's needs as you look towards the future? I guess my question is sort of what roles are retiring out in the next 5 to 10 years? Are you looking to fill those roles or focus on developing new roles? And then the second part of the question is, are the co-op students that are hired, are those co-op roles teaching the skills for the roles that would give graduates hiring edge?
Great, thanks, Jenny. Yeah, I can answer part of that, and then maybe Cassandra, I'll get you to jump in, or Wes. So yeah, certainly, from the co-op hiring perspective, I've definitely seen. We're still hiring a lot of the traditional roles, but yeah, the skill sets that we're looking for, and some of the those different skills that the students are coming in with are definitely changing. And some of the skills we didn't realize we needed until they come on board and they do something for us. We're like, oh, that's awesome that you could do that. Or they're just requirements for the roles because of things like technology that we had talked about already. Someone with a little bit of coding on the side, but if they're, a mineral processing engineer, but they have some experience on that. And those are always really helpful skills. So we're definitely seeing a little bit of a shift in the type of students that are coming through. And I think that's going to bode well for the future of tech in terms of how we're shifting a little bit to fill those future needs for the company as well. So I hope that sort of answers the question. But maybe Cassandra, do you want to speak to that a little bit more in terms of even any specific skill sets that you think would be really important to see as a student or a new grad?
Well, and I think you did cover it to a certain extent. There's that knowledge and awareness of, be it basic programming or advanced programming, where I see some of the more the interesting opportunities, as well as in the full digital architecture of, can you build an app? What's the UX UI, that interface experience, or machine learning and some of those advanced algorithms. So it's more even core traditional math and physics and app design becoming just as important in different ways than, the traditional skills around chemistry, mining, metallurgy, project management. It's this whole new branch of the company, but it's like I think like Stacy, maybe you were mentioning previously, like running like the concept of a startup business. It truly is in that vein, and with some of those different unique skills that we're trying to bring into tech.
Awesome.
I like
Thanks.
that you're looking at the candidates and their skill set. So it's not just kind of what tech. It's like a two-way street, right? You're saying. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny. And then Wes, to sort of get your 2 cents on this, I guess if you could offer maybe your perspective on how you're seeing sort of skill sets change a little bit, and I guess for you, I guess to add to that, maybe if you could talk a little bit about HVC in terms of what gets you excited, like what's the next step look like, and those new roles look like for HVC in the next few years.
I think, there's the analytics piece that Cassandra's talked about, which is new to us. The other area that's getting more important is on process control. We've struggled to find people with the skill sets in that area, and that's something that I think has been a change for us in the last 10 years. Is the need for people with this process control knowledge, and that links up with analytics as well. So those 2 pieces are a big focus for us.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got a lot of big data that we got to try and wrangle in and make sense of. So yeah, I can just appreciate the amount of data that you're managing right now. Great, Masaki. Do I have time for another question, or do you want to jump to trivia and we can come back to the question?
Let's give out a prize. Let's make sure we have a winner, but we'll always come back and answer the questions afterwards. So yeah, Fluke, if you could pop up the QR code slide, that'd be great. And so we use Pigeonhole. Just give everybody just the heads up. So whether it's another device or another browser, is you want to have the oh, hang on, let's see if she's going to get that up there. So there'll be a link shortly, and what I need you to do is you don't need to create an account or anything. You just need to change the username. And so your username, we just want to make sure it's your first name space, your last name, and hyphen your school, so we can identify who the winner is. That way we can give out the prize. Okay, so while we're waiting for the slide, I don't know, did you want to cover this one last question in the chat here, Stacy, which is, what kind of opportunities do we have for recent graduates for masters and PhDs? Is there an R&D area in tech?
Yes. All right. So yeah, we hire recent graduates from masters, and we have PhDs as well. It depends on the role, I guess. So this is my politician's answer to your question, in that we certainly do hire both. But obviously some of the PhD, for example, there's specific roles that are a better fit for maybe someone in a PhD situation as opposed to an undergrad situation. And I guess it depends on the experience the PhD person or master's person is trying to get. We do have an R&D area of tech, which is kind of unique, I think, for a big, large mining company. A lot of times that stuff gets contracted out, and we actually have an in-house research and development group, and we also have some divisions within the company. So for the coal business unit, for example, we have a R&D group for water quality, and they look at new ways that we can treat water. So that's certainly an area that we could look at, and we have some PhDs there as well. And I think, Masaki, you've mentioned a couple of areas where PhDs have worked in the past that you're aware of. I think, so you mentioned it last week, I know.
Yeah, we've had a number on. We've got some in research projects. We have certain ones that are. Actually, we were potentially working with some PhD students who are building a digital twin of our flagship project in Chile, QB2, which is super exciting here. So maybe do you want to talk a bit about recruitment, Stacy, and then we can jump back to a couple questions.
Sure. Yeah, I alluded to it a little bit, but I can tell you now that we are actively recruiting for the upcoming May term. So I sort of talked a little bit about numbers, but to give you some specifics, we're looking at 61, 62 students coming on board for May across the different business units of Teck. So there's lots of opportunity from a student perspective. The majority of those roles are 8-month in duration, and they will be mostly operational based. So whether it's at the coal operations, the copper operations, or at our trail processing facility. So those were the bulk of where our opportunities are going to be based out of, especially from the mineral processing side of things. And yeah, I mean, I can certainly, I think, I know Thomas had to run. So Thomas, I think you might have, are you still, can you have a second, you think? And maybe if you could speak to a little bit about,
I'm still here.
I guess in terms of the process, I know a lot of students say to us often when we do an evaluation that they can't believe the amount of responsibility they were given as a co-op, and that they learn so much. So maybe if you could speak to that a little bit, like I guess in terms of what's been your favorite part or the most fun or surprising part of the job so far for you?
Yeah, so I only started the 11th of January, so I've been here less than a month actually, and it's really neat. You do kind of get to do things on your own quite often. Everyone around, pretty much, you can ask anyone, and they're always happy to help. So it's really great that you get to be a little on your own, but you also have help wherever you need it, and you can get your questions answered, and really have quite a bit of responsibility for it. Other than that, yeah, I've been currently I have a number of projects on the go, it's nice to have some different options. I'm a mechanical student, so they're virtually all in that regard, sort of finding parts to fit problems, anything that's a lot of things that have been kind of left on the back burner because people don't have time for them. It's a nice thing for the co-op students to pick up. It's generally, it's a lower level project, so you can do it as a student. You're not being thrown onto something impossible, and then everyone else is, they all want to be finished as well. It's mainly things just to improve day-to-day operations and help people make their jobs easier.
Awesome. That's great. Yes, certainly. That's the feedback we often get, is that the type of work you get to do is it's real projects, but it's not something that's make work. It's a project that probably an EIT would do if we had another EIT kind of thing. So certainly the level of responsibility continues to grow and grow as you start performing and getting some of those smaller projects under your belt. So it's pretty exciting opportunity. You can see some of the postings are still up on the website right now, just so anyone who's interested in applying. And then for an EIT perspective, that's pretty much ongoing as needed. So as positions come up, you can keep an eye on the website, set yourself up for job alerts, that sort of thing, and apply online as well. So keep an eye on that website because it will be changing all the time. I think we had I think that's pretty much it, Masaki. Sorry, I know we have to
just
wrap
be
it up.
cognizant of time. I know I apologize for going over. We had some technical issues which dragged us going over, but like I said, we'll still be around to answer questions. So I encourage you, if you can stick around, please do so. But I just want to say thank you to our speakers, and if you can stay on, Cassandra and Wes, great, but stay on for as long as you can, and Thomas. But yeah, thank you all for helping out, and thank you for the students for participating. But yeah, let's continue with some of the, if you have questions, please type them in the chat. Anything specific, we've got I think we've answered the ones that are in there, Stacy.
Yeah, I think we have one hand up here, Akeem, if we want to maybe jump to that. Akeem, hi, I know you've been patiently waiting. Do you have a question for us?
Yes, I do. I have a question for Cassandra specifically. It was partly answered in terms of what kind of options are there for people with a PhD but trying to transition into the data science position. So, it's a PhD. Myself, as an example, I have a PhD in chemical engineering, but I have some self-taught experience in data science in terms of going to boot camps and all. And I'm looking to switch. I really am not looking at R&D. I'm looking at something in terms of machine learning, but I have a PhD in chemical engineering. Is that a strange situation, or you guys are open to such people?
Yeah, I would certainly encourage you to apply. Like, if you're looking at the Tech Careers site, you'll notice I expect quite a diversity of job postings around data science and analytics and machine learning within underneath the Race 21 banner or headline. And so, if you have through the boot camp some experience that you feel would be relevant, having a PhD in chemistry or chemical engineering might give you, I'll say, you might have a unique value proposition in how you frame an application for some of those roles. So, I mean, without knowing the details of your thesis or your studies particularly, it's not that I can say explicitly job X or job Y would be the right fit, but with that open-minded, broad opportunity, if you look at your skill set and where you think those overlaps occur most strongly, just try and put yourself forward with this broad range of experience in skill set A and skill set B, and how you feel that combination makes you the right candidate for whichever role might intrigue you the most.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, and just to build on that, if you look at the direction we've talked about of our organization, data science and the analytics and machine learning it's going to cover all parts of our business. And so for those who bridge the gap between their specific discipline and that are going to be an asset to our organization. So I do encourage, I try to encourage all students to, at the very least, while you're a student, dabble in machine learning. Get comfortable with data. It is the future, not just at Tech, but of most organizations out there. And so, yeah, the future is exciting, and that's just sort of one of the keys to help you secure work, not necessarily just at Tech, but at other organizations as well.
Words of wisdom. Awesome. I know there's another question in the chat, and sorry, Esmond, I think I saw this earlier and I forgot to address it, but he's asked if can a new graduate apply for a co-op position. So I have done it in the off case and maybe special circumstance, but it's not a general thing that we would normally do, and only because well, first of all, we want to protect these co-op positions. They're positions for people to sort of grow into, get some experience, so that we could potentially down the road come out as the EIT. And then obviously it's hard because as a new graduate, you're going to be looking for full-time work. We'd hate to have you locked in for an 8-month term and then lose somebody for a full-time position, which is completely understandable that someone will be looking for something permanent as a new graduate, but makes it challenging to tie someone down for a temporary role. So it's rare that we would hire a new graduate for co-op position. We generally stick with co-ops, but I would suggest certainly keep it on the website. Those EIT roles, like I know we just had one for process engineers. I know that was an operational role, but for race, and that was more to help roll out some of the technology projects that are at site. So those roles have been coming up every so often, and so set yourself up with job alerts, keep an eye on the website for those new graduate roles, and hopefully some more will come up in the near future.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I'm very protective of our co-op positions. I think they're critical to not just our organization, but for schools and students. So, we have ongoing positions like 150 to 300 each year, and I want to keep it that way and grow that. But as soon as you hire an EIT or a potential EIT in a co-op position, if they do well, that co-op position is gone almost forever. And if every company fills or does hire new graduates for co-op positions, what happens is the country loses a whole ton of opportunities for young people to develop their skills and whatnot. So yeah, so for me, it's we got to keep and protect and increase our co-op positions. Well, thanks everybody for joining, all you students and Jenny as well. And once again, thanks to our speakers. Yeah, I hope you learned something new.